Of course, this is not financial advice and for entertainment purposes only. Investors, yes, I dreaded making this video. I just did not want to make this video. I knew that YieldMax, MSTY, MicroStrategy has just been performing so bad lately, even since I bought it, which is no shocker because I bought the top and then of course, when I buy it, it goes down and then it went down like a lot. But that's okay because we're going to see in this video the results, the dividends, the monthly dividends, everything from the performance, NAV erosion, the results of just investing $1,000 as a lump sum into MSTY by YieldMax. So this will be a truthful, transparent video of what happened when I invested $1,000 into MSTY. All right, so here we go with the performance of the price of YieldMax's MSTY and then strategy stock. But for all those who don't know, MSTY is basically a ETF by YieldMax that does cover calls or sells cover calls, sells call options, writes call options against strategy stock, which is a Bitcoin proxy, a levered Bitcoin proxy. The hope is that if MicroStrategy goes up, then MSTY would go up in terms of total returns and have a solid return potential with income plus share price potential. But that is not always the case because if the underlying holdings, which in this case, it's going to be MSTR, if that goes down, then MSTY will have a lower dividends, will have NAV erosion and everything in between. Well, we could say worse NAV erosion, but long story short, you always want to be super bullish on the underlying holding whenever you buy a cover call ETF, especially this one, where you have to be bullish on Bitcoin as well as strategy stock. So basically, I bought MSTY about 127 days ago. So you see I bought it right there. And then that was when strategy was kind of like in a little bit of a pullback. And then when I bought it, of course, it just like went down and down and down, which is not shocking because of my timing. And then MSTY once again went down as well because of the distributions as well as the underlying holdings going down. So MSTY went down since my initial purchase about 39% without dividends reinvested. And then MicroStrategy went down 23% just buying it and letting it run, which is unfortunate, but that's what happens when you invest in the stock market. Once again, investing is risky. I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice, just my own experience. And yeah, that was not good. Once again, guys, you guys have to be bullish on the underlying, especially with a single stock cover call ETF, just like basically YieldMax's entire lineup, even like Granite shares, even other stuff like Roundhill, Defiance sometimes, etc. Rex shares, for example. So the reason why is because you still own the stocks or stock in this case of MicroStrategy. So the ETF is basically long the underlying, meaning that if the underlying falls, in this case MSTR, then you will lose value even though you earned the option premium income, the dividends per se. So while the income basically softens the downside, so you might have negative 10% of the underlying, but the cover call ETF goes down like -9. That's still downside, risk. You can't be fully protected if the market keeps dropping, which is of course true because if the underlying goes down, then your cover call ETF will go down on a total return basis and maybe even the share price as well. But you have to be bullish on the underlying. It's basically a no-brainer that the cover call ETFs will always perform the best if the prices of the underlying holding rise or move sideways, which in this case, we want strategy to go up to get the best option income, to get the best total returns, but that was not the case in this case. Secondly, option income is enough in a downward trend, which is not a shocker. Third is of course NAV erosion risk, because in a prolonged bear or choppy market, the ETF's NAV can erode as distributions exceed the portfolio, or at least what the portfolio earns. So even though you get dividends, whether it be weekly or monthly, if the underlying goes down, like you're still going to have NAV erosion of the underlying going down, but also because the ETF is paying out so much distributions that you're just like absolutely getting crushed if the underlying goes down. The most important thing is that income of a cover call ETF, especially MSTY, depends on healthy prices. So the stronger the underlying prices, which hopefully when MSTY was at its prime, that was when a MicroStrategy was going up like a rocket, right? Going up and up and up and up. That will then lead to higher strike levels and then potentially higher premiums because with YieldMax, you were looking for the max yield, max dividends. So your return is going to be pretty much like mostly, if not all of it, pretty much is going to be the income produced from the cover calls on the underlying holding, which in this case, you want MicroStrategy to go up. And of course, it didn't. Investors are seeing gold prices surge over $4,000 per ounce, and billionaire hedge fund managers, including Ray Dalio, are advising to own more gold than usual. The Trump administration is making changes at the Fed and taking significant equity positions in mining companies. And with that in mind, the sponsor of today's video, US Gold Mining Inc., ticker symbol USGO on the NASDAQ, is taking advantage of this shift. Its Whistler project in Alaska is the closest large undeveloped gold-copper exploration project to the main population center of Anchorage. The tailwinds from Washington are exactly the opposite of what they were in the past 30 years. They are productive and constructive towards mining and positively contributing towards the overall rally in mining stocks. Alright guys, here's why I think that you should take a look at US Gold Mining, ticker symbol USGO. Alaska is clearly important for the Trump administration, where Trump issued an executive order on day one on his presidency called Unleashing Alaska's Extraordinary Resource Potential on day one, then issued a second executive order called Immediate Measures to Increase American Mineral Production. The executive order directs government agencies to immediate action to facilitate domestic mineral production to the maximum extent possible, including copper and gold. The Whistler Project Mineral Resource Estimate comprises 294 million tons at 0.68 grams per ton, gold equivalent for 6.48 million ounces gold equivalent, indicated plus 198 million tons at 0.65 GT gold equivalent for 4.16 million ounces gold equivalent inferred. You should review US Gold Mining's latest annual report on Form 10-K and the technical report summary incorporated in it, and its Canadian technical report titled NI 43-101 2024 Updated Mineral Resource Estimate for the Whistler Project, with an effective date of September 12, 2024, for information on the company, the project, and the mineral resource estimate. These are available under US Gold Mining's profile at www.sec.gov and www.sedarplus.ca. US Gold Mining has begun the process of an initial economic assessment, also known as a preliminary economic assessment, and this study is a preliminary review of economic factors, and the timing couldn't be any better, with gold around $4,000 per ounce and copper at $5 per pound. Once again guys, do your own extensive research on US Gold Mining, and also please review their annual report and other filings with the SEC as well. So basically I lump summed $1,000 into MSTY, and then I dripped the income every single month no matter what happened. And let's see what happened. So my position was that my current value right now is $808.42 from my initial $1,000 investment. My total cost, which was my purchases plus my income received, was $1,239.72. And then my unrealized return is my return without income was negative $431.30, or negative 34.79%. My current shares are 62.9 shares, and then my average cost is $19.69, where I invested in MSTY for 127 days. Now, just be sure to know that the current value is $808, which is my income plus the share price decline in this case. The pros of MSTY is that the income went from monthly, which is when I got my income, to now weekly income, which was updated by YieldMax. Now, I think that this was just like, it's whatever, it's cool. Like, I guess if you want weekly income, that's awesome. If you don't like monthly, then that's good, but it's not going to fix MSTY with the income going from monthly to weekly. Just, it's going to feel better to get income faster, I guess. Not going to really change like what's happened with MSTY, which is okay, I guess. You're going to get, of course, high income, and this will be, of course, high risk. And I guess a pro is that, you know, you get Bitcoin exposure through MSTR with income potential, And then the cons is of course NAV erosion, which is going to be pretty much suspected with ETFs that have super high yields like this one, with also the underlying going down. So I lost negative 34% or $431.30. This was very fast. It was high downside, of course. You get also capped upside because of cover calls, and Bitcoin and MicroStrategy haven't been moving like in tandem, which is unfortunate, but that's, I guess, just the way it goes with investing in a single stock like MSTR versus actually holding Bitcoin. So this represents my initial purchase, which was on June 10th of this year. And then of course, MSTY just went down and down and down, both in its price return and the total return. And this is just super important on why diversification is crucial for investors, because you should never go all in, even just like go a lot of money into something like MSTY, into a single stock cover call ETF. You should always have diversification, whether it be VOO, whether it be SPY-I, QQI, Ulti, even just like other funds, WPay, just like so many other funds, SCHD, QQQM, I don't even know. Diversification. And unfortunately, this was the top, which sucks. Here's my end result of investing in MSTY. So we have my share price only on the bottom, and then my income plus share price on the top. So the actual total return of MSTY is going to be your income plus your share price. So my share price only, I lost negative 34.79% or negative $431.30. But then factoring in the dividends every single month, plus just like dripping and getting lower share prices and whatnot, my actual return was negative 19.58% or negative $191.58, which is a little bit better than just the share price only, where I benefited from dripping my distributions. So yes, I lost money on paper with MSTY, but I didn't actually lose the money because I haven't sold. I'm just gonna let the income just ride out every single week now instead of monthly, and just hope for MSTR to have a comeback. So let's see if that will be the case, because tip break analysts have a price target for MSTR, which once again, you have to be bullish on the underlying. So let's see if these analysts are going to be bullish on MSTR in the next 12 months. So the average price target of MSTR is $545.07, which represents 78.83% upside by TipRanks analysts, with a low price target of $175 and a high price target of $705. This also represents a strong buy by analysts, and this is good to see, because if you are holding MSTY, you want MSTR to be bullish and hopefully going up. And once again, like, analysts are not always right. They could be wrong. This is going to be like a higher risk play. And of course, do your own research and always do your own due diligence. And even just like know that I am not a financial advisor, but this is good news for MSTY. This should be very good news. And hopefully, I know that Bitcoin has a price target of like 145K by a lot of people and analysts. So we could hopefully see like a good resurgence from MSTY, but I don't know. We could all just hope. And hopefully, if that is the case, that MSTY could have better income, better total returns. And is a reverse split inevitable? Maybe. I could probably see a reverse split like eventually, just because of the high income is like not sustainable for a no reverse split, but hopefully this could recover. On the bright side though, at least in the last 6 months for total returns, that MSTY is outperforming other funds like MTYY, MSTW, and MSII as well, because MSTY doesn't have leverage, nor does it pay like those super high distributions, but it is still very high. And once again, when you combine leverage with a cover call fund, that can amplify your downside, which MSTY doesn't have leverage. And it's just, I guess, good that MSTY has been outperforming these other products. At least for all-time returns, MSTY has been up over 200% on paper, which from stockanalysis.com, and has been outperforming everything else because MSTY has been out the longest from these other newer funds, and those have leverage and they just got launched at like the worst time. But MSTY can do well if MSTR goes up once again, it has to just be bullish. But how could you mitigate this? You could either do like a hedge with winter, or even just like diversifying to other funds that include MSTR, like blocks, even like Ulti. I think that one has MSTR, even WPay, or just owning a Bitcoin cover call fund like BTCI by Neos, for example. But yes, I lost money on paper once again, and hopefully it can recover and go up and just have like a break even, or maybe even make some profit. But I don't know. This is going to be super risky, and we'll see if Misty can recover. So I want to know your thoughts. Like, is Misty going to recover? Is it going to go back to what it used to be? I don't know. We're going to see, and hopefully it does. But even with like the target 25 new funds, that's not going to solve Misty. It's going to have probably like less NAV erosion. But still, like, you have to be bullish on the underlying holding. I can't stress out enough. Be bullish and long term, and don't freak out over like a month or a week or a day or just like 2 months, 3 months. You have to be a long-term investor, especially with investing in Misty. Now, if you guys like this video, please give it a like, because this cute puppy did. Thank you so much for watching. And once again, this is not financial advice. Do your own research. Investing is risky once again. And check out our last video on your screen. I love you guys so much. Crush on the stock market and take it easy. Peace.